Holbrook New Media.
This is Jeffrey K. Holbrook. Welcome to the audio feed from holbrooknewmedia.com. Today, Geoff and Jeffrey, the weekly catch-up. We hope you enjoy the audio version. If you want to see what we look like, I will embed the video for this episode at holbrooknewmedia.com.
Well, hello everybody, and well, hopefully everybody's watching. Thousands of people are watching because we've got some great news this week. Anyway, here's the intro. Well, and joining me as always with the weekly catch-up is my co-host, Jeffrey K. Holbrook. Good evening, Mr. Holbrook.
Well, good morning to you from West Virginia. Episode 29. Here we are. Sometimes I think last week I forgot to say so, but yeah, it's episode 29. It's good to be here. And like you say, why don't you go ahead and spring the big news?
Well, I don't know if you noticed by the lower thirds at the bottom of the screen on our front shot or our end shot, we've got it says we're now broadcasting on RELATECASTS. So we're joining Elan Chat and Tech Down Over and Lectora Live. So we're on a special network. So we're doing so well. We've been what do they call it? We've been syndicated. Is that what they say?
Yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, we've been syndicated. Oh,
But
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a bit elaborate, but I don't know if you noticed when we started up, I was just looking a bit sideways because I was monitoring the live stream just to make sure it actually came up. But I'm a bit scared if I watch it, that sound comes back through the screen. It can do if you do the wrong thing at times. So
well, I have it here on my other screen, so it's running as it needs to. Looks like to me.
Yeah, so we thought, well, we've got such a huge audience on my channel, which is me, you, and maybe 2 or 3 other people. But I thought put it around where there's a lot more content of the similar one. So hopefully we'll enhance the RELATECASTS plethora of shows that they've got in there. Don't know about plethora, but we'll join the 3 or 4 that they've got there at the moment anyway. So I'm really excited to be doing this. So add a bit more to the RELATECAST broadcast and that.
Oh, I am too. I think this is really going to be cool. And in that vein, I had a problem with my Microsoft this week.
Oh,
yeah.
I
don't like them as well as I used to. Ever since I got Windows 10, every so often, of course, about once or twice a week, an update comes through. It's pretty constant. And I just one of the updates came through, and of course, it trashed my computer. It just gets to the point where there's these little things spinning around down on the screen, and it never goes any farther. The last time that happened, I left it up for 24 hours, and it didn't. So I thought, oh, okay. So I went in and checked, and I was able, after a bit of work, to find a restore point that, I could do it back before the update. I thought, oh, cool. Okay. So I went back, and it didn't destroy everything, and I was able to get back to that. So I spent some time making sure that I deleted things. There were some drivers from some old equipment that, I wasn't using now and different things like that. So I cleaned up everything really well. And about the time I got done with that, the update came through again and crashed it again.
Oh.
And so I'm like, what in the world? These updates came through sometimes. I mean, it's twice a week, it seems, just constantly these updates are coming through. And they've even stopped me from doing, a show before because it showed up right when I turned the computer on, maybe I always have it on an hour before the show. And here this thing did that. So what I did was first it said there was no restore point available after that. And I'm like, So I did mess around a little bit, almost had to restart it and rebuild everything, but finally a restore point showed up. So I put it to do the restore, went downstairs, turned on YouTube, and looked at how it was possible to stop the updates from coming through. So I just stopped them completely. Since they're crashing me when they happen all the time. I mean, it doesn't happen every time, but there's always some kind of delay or some kind of problem every time they come through. I may eventually crash because I don't get the updates, but
yeah,
but they're crashing each time. Several times they've just knocked me out completely. So, I've got to do a rescue of some kind. So I'll just wait until it crashes and then rebuild it.
Well, I had a little Dell laptop here because I'm predominantly Mac, but I like to have one of each. So I've got a Dell laptop that I can use, and that was on Windows 7 for long enough. And I thought, I was held off while Windows 10 came along. But then all of a sudden, for something, I thought, I'll do it. I'll just bite the bullet and update. So because I don't use that much, I didn't bother backing up because I thought, well, if it trashes my machine, it's not that important. It would be a good thing to clean it up. I didn't have anything important. If I did need anything, I would reload it. And I tend to live that way on computers, that if it does crash and I rebuild it, I should have all my things backed up if I need it. That machine didn't need that. So I upgraded, and then it went same as you in this loop. Just press this, wait this, press this, but it just wouldn't go anywhere. It just crashed it. And then I had to reformat the hard drive, put it back to nothing, and then reload the update again. So put it back to the factory settings when I got it, and then do it again. But since I did it the first time, I haven't had a problem.
That's
but
good.
It was a funny thing the week after you experienced yours, where it went on for 3 or 4 hours and stopped you from doing the show. I thought, sucker, Geoff, sucker. It did it on mine, and it was out. I just had to turn it on for an hour and do something on one, and it wouldn't do it. It did the same thing. But and then sometimes there's nothing, but when there is, it says, an update. It takes forever a lot of the time. So, but my thoughts on that is, well, if they're doing that, there must be a serious issue that they're trying to correct. So,
like I say, you would think so, but I mean, they come so often, and you don't have a problem until the update comes through. And then it creates this big problem. So, of course, I guess it prompted me I did find, like you say, some programs I wasn't using, never planned on using. I kicked all those out. Some drivers that were for old equipment from a long time ago. It was one piece of equipment that I never was able to use. And it has some pretty hefty drivers. And so I got rid of all that stuff. And, so I clean things up quite a bit. So that's good. And computers running faster in general now. But I don't know. I just get tired of being messed with all the time. Back in the 80s. I was one of the early adopters of computers, and of course this is DOS, a DOS computer. I knew every file in the machine because I put it there. I knew what they all did. And so now this stuff's just being done to you all the time. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of files, and everything's being sent to you online, whether you want it or not. Now Microsoft's getting more insistent about, this is how you're going to live with our operating system. Now that they've got a monopoly on, this side of the thing, it's kind of like, okay, but you just get tired of it when they don't treat you right, and they actually do things that cause a productivity problem. That's really a pain.
Well, it's funny you should say that. I was just saying that to Rick the other week. We was saying about all these, the great thing with the modern software, and that you're always getting constant updates. But I was saying it sometimes can be a bit of a pain, because like Adobe Creative Cloud, it's great that you get kept up to date with all the latest features and all that within the same subscription. But one of the problems, yes, you get it, but you just learn how to do something, and then they update it and change it. And then if you haven't looked at it for a while, if you don't do the updates, then you're left behind. So if you don't update, somebody will be doing something on an updated version and give you that, and it won't work on yours. So you have, but it's just maddening. Sometimes I'll hark back to the days where you got a product and it was 2 or 3 years before they updated it. And so you could get stuck into it. But now they seem to, like I do with Muse, to do up my website on Muse. And there's nearly not a week that goes past that I don't have to save it as a new file name, because it's got a new version. So whenever it does, it says resave it as another name. So I always do that, because there's so much different in it. You have to save it again. But it's like you were saying, yes, it's great to have that, but with all these changes, always something new that you have to learn. And like you think, well, you might not have to learn everything, but usually when they put an update in it, it's something crucial that everybody wants that you will need to know, because they don't tend to update these programs with 500 features that nobody wants, do they? It's usually they're the ones that just stay in the background, but usually when they want to get more people onto the platform and that. And one thing, like you said, what I used to do when I was in the PC world, because I sort of started off with Mac and then I went into PCs, and it's only probably been about the last 5-6 years I've been back into the Mac, I think, probably. But before then, what I used to do, my Christmas routine nearly always was on the Christmas break, would always get my machine and reformat the hard drive and reload everything and do it every year. Because like you said, with Windows and that the early days, you knew what you had, but sometimes with deleting this and doing that, some things go out of alignment. And the best way is to get a clean system again, put it up and just get the latest updates. And you usually find that you load your machine with all these things that you have to have. But if you delete them out and just reformat and just put what you're using, you usually find, well, don't even want that. I don't load it back in. You find there's hundreds of things that's slowing your machine down, because I still think, we're back when we had 386s and 486 machines before Windows and that. But some of the times you think some of the things that people want to do on machines, those machines probably would still roughly do the job. It's just that graphic interface to be able to look at it nice with a 40 megabyte picture on the screen and all these graphics that drive it. But really, that's all that the processing is doing, and it's gone from the CPU to GPU these days, hasn't it, to the graphic process. So that they've got sort of to the limit of speed, but it's just for the graphic side of it. But
yeah, I know. Whenever I ran a computer bulletin board system back in the 80s, before the internet was readily available or even anybody knew hardly what it was, everything was text-based. It was all DOS and text-based. So we were, just moving around just pushing, letters and numbers and things around. And so the graphic stuff, that completely changed the ballgame. I mean, that is an enormous amount of data that has to go through to be doing all the graphic stuff. And it's not just a video you're sending, but it's to operate your graphic operating system locally on your own system. It's really kind of weird. And it really takes, like you say, a tremendous amount of processing power just to have pictures on your screen to move your mouse around and click on.
Yeah, I just remember when my first instance, when it was one of my early Macs and that, and first thing I got a modem which you could get onto this thing called the internet. I don't even think it was called the internet back then, but it was CompuServe. Remember CompuServe? Yeah,
she had CompuServe, and then before it was America Online, it was actually called Quantum Link for Commodore 64 computers. That's when I first got into it.
And I got onto this thing, like you said, a bulletin board type thing, where you could go into a museum website and they would tell you, asked it about dinosaurs, and it would tell you all the things about it. And no pictures whatsoever, but it was just all text. And I was thrilled to bits, but I just keep thinking, some of the people, if you tell them you got excited about that? And then I don't know about you, but then Microsoft Windows came out and there was this disk that they had, and I thought, I've got to get that. Encarta, remember that? The first dictionary, you clicked on things and got all these pictures. So if you did on dinosaurs, you got the pictures of the dinosaurs and the noise of it. And we thought, how fantastic, all this on that CD. But that just pales to insignificance to what you get these days. And you said most of the things are just all there for that. I just still find it hard to believe that when you just jump on there's just so much content, really good content, as well as a lot of rubbish out there as well. But there's such great content, but it just won't think there's so much great content. I'm never going to have any time to look at most of that. And even things you really like, I subscribe, and I went through my YouTube channel probably about 2 months ago, and I thought, I've got to be harsh because I'll miss out on. I thought all the ones I subscribed to, I really liked and enjoyed, but I thought I still don't have time. I'm missing them, and then I'm missing, say, the top. I thought, well, I'm going to have the top 15, and that's it. No matter how, I'll just unsubscribe from all these others because then, and now it seems I get more out of it because I thought, no, I'm going to just watch these people do that. So, and there was one of them, I don't know if you noticed, was Digital Rev TV. That was another one. But their main person who's been doing on that for about 7 years, Kai Wong, he's moved from Hong Kong back to England, and now he's left the channel. So he was the main one, sort of the main character as well, doing all these reviews. But he started up his own channel, so unsubscribe from the Digital Rev TV and subscribe to his, because he started doing the same thing in England. But then his offsider from that one, he's also left, so I don't know about the future of Digital Rev TV. So I hope it still goes, because it did do a good job. So it wasn't always him, but I always feel sorry for the other people at these places when it sort of seems to revolve around one sort of key person, because especially when it's a particular personality. But that's what I do anyway, trying to keep track of all the shows I want to, like here, even here on Relate Corp, I try to keep up on with the Elaine chat and the Lectora Live. That's about what I try to. But even then, when you do 2 hours a week of that, just trying to keep up with that, and to say preparing your own show, it's quite a lot of commitment. But what I tend to do is if I've got some laborious tasks like paying bills, like we all love to do that, don't we? But I'll do that, but I'll have the two screens, have one of the podcasts going on the other screen, so I can listen to that, watch that, and just quickly turn and sort of do different things like that while I'm going along on that. But that's how I carry on with it anyway. So
no, it works really, really well for that. I was running into trouble this week, a little switch the subject, I guess, but I've been over the last couple of months, I've been running into a bit of trouble with Audacity, which I've kept mostly to Audacity for most of the audio things I'm doing. It's plenty well enough because I'm not doing high volume, things, but I've done some actual professional level voiceover type things in small instances. And they love the sound I'm giving to them. So I'm not having any trouble. But the trouble I had was I was having trouble with the processing time for an hour's worth of audio on this show, because I have two separate channels here. I'm recording it on my Zoom H5 recorder. Mine is a local recording, and then yours is coming over Skype, and I'm getting a recording with two separate channels. And so I treat each one separately, whatever it needs, and then I put it on my podcasting channel. So it got to the point, for some reason, whenever I would go to process 1 hour of audio on one channel, it would take 45 minutes or something to do a process, such as, you're doing noise reduction, or you're doing, some type of, amplification or something, just whatever you're doing. And it was taking an hour or, maybe 45 minutes to an hour to do one process on one channel. So I work night shift. So pretty much all night long, it would take me to get all those channels done. And so what I had done was brought up my PlayStation 3 and was playing Skyrim, watching the process happening on the left monitor, and then playing Skyrim on the main monitor, and so that kind of kept things going. But this week I found out what my problem actually was.
What was it?
This last week, it was 1 hour and 10 minutes. Well, what happened was I had made a template, file that was and it had the sounds, the intro, outro, things like that, a couple of sounds in it. And so then I would load that up and then load the audio into it. Well, what happened was it, evidently, whenever you load things into it from the outside and keep doing that, then I would save it under the new file name for the new thing. Evidently, a lot of junk accumulates in there. What I've done now, last week, it was probably one of the longest shows we'd had. It was about 1 hour and 10 minutes of audio on each channel. And what I did was took the sounds that I needed and the intro and outro and put them in a WAV file. And then I double click on that. It loads up in Audacity. These things load in really quickly instead of that real long type of thing. And I got the entire show done in about 45 minutes. So if I have a new incidence of Audacity and I just load the files in and do them, it does it, like you say, in a very, very short period of time. The longest process took 4 minutes. But having one that you load into that has his template and it has your sounds and everything, and doing it that way, that all of a sudden gets so bogged down eventually, I guess, that it's just not even usable hardly. And so I thought, what is my problem? And cleaning up the computer was part of that too. But now it just works like that, because I'm loading all the files fresh into a brand new Audacity, window that I'm bringing up, and now it works really quickly. But that was a real problem. I mean, it was taking me 5 or 6 hours to get the show just processed.
And that's the thing with some of these, like Audacity is a free program.
Right.
It works very well, but sometimes they might not be as clean, like you said, have a bit of junk in the background that you need to clear out that's maybe not as refined as a product that you do buy. But for what it does, it's still a damn good product, really, for nothing, isn't it? It really does a great job, because what most people do is just want a clean recording. They don't usually alter it much, maybe get a little bit of noise reduction, but like Audition does a million and one different things. But for most people, they just want a clear audio where they can cut out something, delete something, and that does a more than an adequate job.
Well, I think the biggest thing about me being able to use Audacity and get a professional sound is the fact that the recordings I'm doing are so quiet to start with. My booth back here is, last time I checked it, it was minus 60 dB.
Oh,
very, very, very quiet, and so it's quiet already. Noise reduction that is in Audacity is completely adequate and works amazing if you don't have much noise to start with, and it's not in the frequencies that your voice is, so it alters your voice and gives you the compression barrel sound, and stuff like that. I mean, it is really, most people podcasters, it never occurs to them to sound treat their space. And I'm not sure what that's about, but they don't. And I mean, I have some sound treatment in here. That booth, like you say, is quite well treated. And so then I've even got more sound treatment out here. And the reason I leave the door open when we're doing the show is because it swallows anything that bounces in that direction, and it's not coming back out. So that's actually a big sound panel for me when I'm doing the show here. So you can use Audacity and get professional results if you don't allow a lot of weird sounds to go into it to start with that you have to eliminate later on.
But I think like you try and do the same with that I do. When you're doing audio, if you've got to do any package to reduce noise, it's no good. You've got to, if you do it first if you've got sirens going, no software is going to get rid of it properly. And anything that does it seems to either muffle the sound or takes away the quality of the sound. So I don't like putting anything on the audio. But like I said, if it's that important, you make sure you get the best quality while you're recording it. And like yourself, when you've got a bit of noise, because you just stop doing it. I know I've done recordings and I said, no, I'll just wait until midnight.
Right.
Because even with the treated room, without a proper soundproof room, sometimes, I can still hear just that little bit of noise. Probably most people wouldn't. But I thought, if I'm thinking about it, if I don't hear it and I'm happy with it, just think of how excellent somebody who's not going to notice that. And as I said, then if you do put some other things behind it, you've got the best possible clarity on that. And I must admit, that's one thing I do enjoy the most. I love the video, but I really, really get off on people having great audio with the video, and I might not notice if they've got a bit of noise in the video or the background's not as good. But I certainly, as I keep saying, there's this one place here does an excellent video, all the titles, the content's excellent, but I can't watch it because it just sounds like they're in a hollow room. There's the microphone's on the camera, and he's just speaking into a big hole. And I thought they've gone to all that trouble, and I thought they've got the cameras, the backdrops, the green screen, everything else happening. Why wouldn't you invest? Like, what did you say? You had the lavalier, wasn't that the other week? Oh no, it was. We had on Tech Down Over, had Gina Schreck. Yes. We had Gina on Tech Down Over, and she said an $18 one.
Right.
And she was, I thought it wasn't switched on because I was saying on the show, I don't think your mic's switched on. But what she had plugged into was the Facebook feed.
Oh,
when I went back later, Facebook feed, the quality that came out of that $18 microphone was just outstanding compared to just the echoey thing. So why wouldn't you just spend that $18 and just said, like even yours is not a super duper expensive microphone, but compared to $18, it's a fortune, isn't it? What was yours, about $50? Is it?
Yeah. This one here right now, I checked the price today actually, because I usually try. If the price goes down really quickly, then I'll snag 2 or 3 of these. I've got 3 of them, but I'll grab one every now and then. It is actually right now about $70, and it has a brother that's about $56 right now on sale, and these things really work well. I mean, we used to have a family singing group, and I would be on stage. I would use one of these on stage or whatever, but I've been truly, now again, I have a condenser in the booth. The booth, I mean, the condenser really should only be used in a very quiet space, to me, for a regular recording like that. And so, yes, I use this out here, like we talked about it in another recent show about kind of a poor man's compression using a dynamic microphone. And it records what's in here. You talk past it. You don't go, into it all the time. And you get the sound that you're looking for. In the booth, it needs to be very quiet, not letting external sounds, because you can hear your dog breathing next door in a condenser if you don't have a quiet environment. Very, very bad to use a condenser. Like the first microphone in podcasting and audio podcasting that people were talking about was the Blue Yeti. So everybody grabbed this Blue Yeti, slammed it down on their desk, and said, "Hey, we're podcasting now." And I go, "Oh, echo."
And the thing is, I've got with that, which was a great microphone, but with the stand, it picked up every single vibration of the machine and picked the hum.
Exactly, and all the banging on your desk and keyboard stuff, and
it's a great microphone if you want something like a conference room thing, an all round thing. But I see people that have that Yeti, yes, and they've got it about 3 or 4 foot away from them, thinking, "Oh, this is a good way it's going to do it." But no, you still have to be fairly close. But what I found with the Yeti was, it did when I first got it, I just could not get rid of all the other sounds. I would pick the neighbor's dog 2 blocks away barking, or just walk. So you could hear, and I thought, I can hear all that just like that. It just picked up every damn thing. It just said, so I eventually got rid of that, but it was a good one. But it was one of my first ones that I tried. But and even this one's a condenser, but because it's a small one, it doesn't pick up as much, so it works quite well. What it does anyway.
The mic you can see behind me under the skeleton there. That one is a Samson C01 of I guess one of the earlier vintages or whatever. But talking about, I did not realize I used that for several months before I finally realized, and this was in my sound treated space, but I used that for several months podcasting before I realized just how noisy the mic itself is. It actually generates noise. Yes, it's a condenser, but it is very, and it's there in a place of honor as my first podcasting microphone. Podcasters have to show their microphones, but it has so much noise. And I used it for 6 months before I realized that there was anything going on. Now, if you listen to my early shows, you can't hear it so well, the noise so much, because I did use noise reduction. I was in a very quiet space when I was using it, so I could eliminate the noise the microphone was using. But once I got into this booth up here and I started listening with headphones through my Zoom H5 and, recorder and stuff like that, I'm thinking, what is that roar? It was really loud. And I had it like on 7 out of 10, and it was kind of like, what is that roar? So then I would plug in another microphone and get it. Oh, now I know where that's coming from. And so I did get myself another real condenser. And this one here, what is that? The Rode, what was that? You have one too. It's an NG. No, I haven't looked at it for a little while. Yeah, it's a Rode. It's something.
NT1A.
Yeah, the NT1A. Yeah. That was it. I haven't looked at it for a while, so I hadn't really thought you just get it here and use it and don't think about it. But the NT1A, and it is billed as one of the quietest self noise mics, even though it's not that expensive. It's about $270 or something like that, I think. And so it is billed as very, very quiet. And it is. You can't hear anything when you're listening. You're trying to hear it. It's just not there. There's no noise it makes. But that's the thing. It's the right tool for the right job. A condenser for a very quiet environment. If you have an environment that has more noise, use something like you have, which is made for the other environment, for the more noisy environment, just to keep it close to you. This is definitely made. They use these on stage while the crowd's screaming. So That's what you use for that. You can drive a nail with a pipe wrench, but wouldn't you rather have a hammer?
Yeah. But it's funny you should say that. There was the Shure PG58, which is I've got on the keyboard.
Oh, yes.
It's a dynamic. One of the tests they do, they say, but can you hammer a nail in with your microphone? And they use that to.
Oh, wow. That
would say this is.
I would find that painful to watch.
Oh, but they do bang, bang, bang.
Yeah.
They do to make a point that how strong it is, and I thought that is a bit ridiculous. But with sound, like you said, the NT1A, I think it's a great sound as well. But what also as well, I have to do as well. You listen to the quality of your sound, but I always now go and record something and then listen back to that, because sometimes, yes, you hear all these noises, but it still doesn't come out on the recording.
Right.
And so sometimes you freak out about think, oh, that sounds horrible. I can hear my breathing. But sometimes you don't, it doesn't come through. And so like even on this, a lot of the times, once I get the sound quality, I don't monitor anymore because I thought I can see on the meters if it's peaking, and that's so, because you get confused a bit, especially when you're doing voiceover, and I tend to take the headphones off. And I know, well, if I stand in a particular way where I've got it, I'm just going to be reading something. I know I'm not going to be moving. It's going to come out okay. So once you've monitored that, and I find it's much, much easier to do it. And plus, without the headphones, it doesn't get half as hot stuck in your little cupboard to do your thing. Because I've got a little cupboard that I can get in to do it. I did convert a bit of a room, but still, like your little setup there, I've got a little one, the setup the same, but that still is the best quality because it's kept in there. It still is the quietest environment.
I do have a small advantage. Well, some people think it's huge. I do have a small advantage with my booth here. Number one, my house sits back up in the woods away from the road. I live out in the country. There's nobody mowing their grass near my house. The nearest neighbor is several hundred yards away. I never hear their lawnmower. I know they mow their grass because I see it mowed, but I never hear it over here. If I'm outside and I'm over on the edge of the yard, I will hear them through the woods, but it's just not happening. So the house itself is pretty isolated from road traffic and from anything anybody else would do. Occasionally a loud truck might come through. But then coming into the booth here, this room on the outside of the booth here does have sound treatment on this end of the room, and I'm getting ready to put some on the other end of the room, but this is sound treated. On this wall, the outside of the wall on the booth, there is this huge wall that goes into our great room, they called it, but it's like the big living room. There are bookcases all along that wall for a little bit of insulation on that wall. Then there is a stone fireplace that takes up half the back of that, the back wall of that room. Our walk-in closet for our bedroom is on the other side, and in this room is another closet on this side. And so it is completely isolated in the center of the house, in a house that is isolated in the center of the woods over away from a lot of other things. So we don't have a real external noise leaking in problem. So in here, you heard that siren just barely the other day. Whenever there was a really loud sirens on the road when we were doing the show, you barely heard that siren through this mic. But I don't even have curtains on these windows over here. I'm getting ready to put some up. But so you got a little bit of that. If you go in the booth, you can hear your own brains working in there. It is so quiet in there that, you don't realize how much noise that you generate, just like that microphone back there, how much noise that you actually generate. Well, yeah, you get in there, it's like, so, and so it's very super quiet in there. And I mean, that is,
we should do a show from our booths. Just to talk. Here we are coming from the booth. It's all quiet.
Yeah, one of the, I'll get everything moved around and put back in there. Maybe we'll have to do that. That would be funny.
It's just usually the booths just don't have enough room for anything else. Do they?
Yeah, this one is 4.5 feet square. It's actually wait for it. It's an elevator shaft.
Oh.
Our house is one of those custom made houses way back when. It was built back in the 70s. And one of the things they have is a 4.5-foot square elevator shaft that goes from the basement. This is the top floor that I'm on right now. So it's like a 3-story elevator. And it's floored off, kind of floored off in the kitchen to make a big pantry. And it's floored off up here for my sound booth. So, it's just perfect. And it's centered right in the middle of the house, which is out in the woods and away from a lot of external noises. So one guy on one of the channels on Google Plus said it's really nice to know that somebody at least doesn't have to sacrifice to the audio gods every time they want to record.
Oh, that's right. And then some people go to the trouble of getting their room like that, and then they leave the computer in the room. And then
Yes.
I'll leave the computer on the outside, shut the door or shut the thing, and have the cord going in. It's just me and the microphone and maybe my iPad with the script or something I want to record on that. But because the machines, you don't think they make a noise, but if they're in that same room that you deaden the sound of anything else, it sounds like a thunderstorm coming through when you hear the hard disk, and it always makes a noise when you don't want it to, or when the fan start moving and that. So.
Right, and then the laptops, the fan comes on. The older ones especially, on off, on off, on off. So you can't do a noise reduction that does the whole global noise reduction because it does that. I solved that problem. I fell in love with digital audio recorders, the Zooms. I like the Zooms. Here I'm using the Zoom H5. I've got a lot of wires hooked to it, so I can't pick it up and let you see it. But and then in there I have a Zoom H2N with a small 4-channel mixer, and that's what I'm using with. There you go. Oh yeah, you got your Tascam. Was it a D?
Tascam. DR40.
Yes. I knew I'd seen that before. Mm-hmm. Yeah, this H5 is very, very similar to the way that one works. I'm getting ready to get mine has the Zooms have modules that you can click and take on and take off. And I have the XY mics on the top of this one right now. One of the things I'm getting for Christmas, it's about $70. You can, you have your 2 XLR and TRS, plugins at the bottom of the thing, just like yours does there. Well, this one here, there's a module you can put on top of it that lets you have 2 more inputs. So instead of just the 2 channels and then the stereo with the XYs, you can just take the XYs off, click on this other module, and you can put 4 independent channels coming in with microphones on the Zoom H5. If you have the H6, then you can have 6 independent channels since it has 4 already. Now the only thing it doesn't have phantom power, but for me it's perfect because I'm using dynamics for this anyway, and I only use phantom power in the booth with the condenser. But being able to have 4 microphones, you could sit down and do some type of panel discussion at a table, everyone with their own individual microphone. I am a big, huge fan of digital recorders instead of recording into a computer. I don't trust software. I really don't.
I think they're so underrated because I've recorded things on that, because really, if you do want to do anything, the file's the same as what you probably would have got out of your computer.
Oh, you get some high quality wave. I do everything in wave, of course, and then I convert it to MP3 at the very end after everything is done. But the high quality, high end wave files, you can really do some good quality stuff out of these Zooms.
And these things are designed for just long recording. But even in Audition, I've done that on my computer, but I've had a couple of occasions where I've come up, it's frozen, it's done something wrong because of the computer panel, not probably the program, but it's a bit frightening when you've done something, spent an hour doing it, and 10 minutes of it is not recorded. And I don't know about you, but when I'm recording something, I'd like to do it all in one big hit. If I have to stop and re-record something, when you edit it, it just doesn't come out right. So I usually have to start again and say, well, I'll read the whole script again. I don't mind if I make a few mistakes, but if it's in that, I'll just do it in one big recording, where these things are just designed for that.
Yes.
And like they said, the very small power consumption, they don't make any noise. And as I said, then you don't have any cables going through. But as I said, it's got the phantom power, so you can use most of the good microphones. What I quite often use this for, I take that out and just record some ambient noise around the place. And I did once round the horses and just walk next to somebody walking the horse and get the clip clop. I walked down the road with the clip clop, and then I edited that onto the video. But the thing was, recorded the clip clop of the horse I'd filmed. So it wasn't just any old horse's clip clop. It was the actual horse that it was. So it matched perfectly.
Exactly.
But people didn't realize, how comes that horse is going clip clop, but it's on dirt? It wasn't on any solid surface.
Exactly. I saw a car a couple of times last night watching TV, and it was on dirt, and it was doing a pavement skid sound when it took off.
Well, I mean, as a kid, you grow up and you get most distraught when you get old enough to drive or know about cars. Hey, they don't screech on dirt. They don't, but it's what Hollywood's made us grown up to believe, isn't it? So,
Sure.
But it's like these new car parks where they have all the nicely painted, and you just turn the wheel. You know how it screeches. You're not sliding, but that just sounds like a Hollywood screech. But like we were saying the other week, I think, with guns, that like in Hollywood it blows a volcano going off, but then some gun took a just go bang, and it's like, it's not like you think, well, that wasn't a gunshot, but Hollywood's conditioned us all to, it's all this huge Dirty Harry type.
I always like the sound of the gunshots on there's a distinctive sound to the gunshots on the Indiana Jones movies. I mean, they pull out a handgun, and I mean, it just has the sound that I've never heard in another movie. It just has, it's almost like the combination of a gunshot and a punch. You know, they do his big punch noises, so, but it has a chest thumping thing every time they shoot a handgun. And, I mean, it's the distinctive sound, and I'm not sure who did the sound on those movies, but it's really, get your attention type, like, someone fired a weapon. There is no question about it at all.
But if you've ever seen you see some the good shots of these, what they're called Foley artists, don't they? Creating the sounds, and it's quite incredible watching some of these, because you think, well, they want a gunshot. So how would you think you get a gunshot? You think, well, fire a gun. But some of the things, is that how they got the gunshot? Sometimes it's got nothing to do with the actual thing. It's something totally ridiculous that they use to get that. They say, like, I don't know, but all like crushing eggshells or doing that for something else, for walking on the beach on sand shells, on shell. But as I said, different things, they do all these, but they actually do that rather than just all these electronic ones. But I really do think they do a good job with it. They build up thousands and thousands of sounds to do that. But it still is quite a popular industry, isn't it, there, even with all the electronics?
I really enjoyed that a few years ago. I was doing the sound for an Easter play that they were doing at the church. This is the church my wife was raised in. And once I told them, I said, whenever he's coming out of the tomb, on Easter morning, we can have birds singing and stuff like that. They said, how do you do that? And I said, well, I can do it with a computer, and I didn't put it on, this is way back when, and tape land and things like that. But when it came time to, instead of showing him being nailed to the cross, they actually had the curtains closed, and then there was some music playing and things like that. And then there was actual nailing going on. Oh, okay. And what I did for that was took a 2x4 about a foot long, and just took some nails and bent over onto a metal bar about so wide that was going down the 2x4. And then I just took a conventional claw hammer, and I was driving big spikes into wood with this thing. I set it on the floor up on the stage, which was actually a linoleum. It wasn't carpet. And so they could feel it out in the audience. Oh. And so I was going bang, bang. So
was it,
yeah.
Like sent around.
Yeah, it was. I mean, and then what I was doing was actually moving my location every time I did it. So I would do the hand, then I would move and do the other hand. So it was different. And then I would go to the other side of the stage and do the feet. And it was, and so I got to play with that just in a little local play, but it was really fun. And I got the sound I was looking for, the metallic, ding, the ring you expect off of a large spike. And, so, I mean, people they love that. I mean, people were talking about that sound, about how they could just see it being done. We closed the curtains and then did it, and they could just see it being done. Just let their imagination supply the details by handing them the sound.
But like Brick said, if you ever sat down and watched one of these, Windows Xbox machines and turned down the sound,
yes,
it's pretty boring, isn't it? When you don't have the sound, they might have spent millions on the game, on the graphics, but it's nothing without the sound. And like you said, just a simple thing like that really got people to understand it. They would have understood it anyway, but it just gets you into the right feel of it when you can hear something going on that. So the audio does make a huge difference.
There's also one other thing I wanted to throw in about the Zoom H5. The XY microphones on the top of it, if you use a digital recorder and you're just like, a lot of podcasters find themselves in a spot and they've got this chance to do this really quick interview somewhere. So they pull out their digital recorder and they're just talking and then, going to them and back and forth and back and forth. You get a lot of handling noise out of those things. A lot of times, one of the things that I love about the Zoom H5, the XY mics that come with the Zoom H5 are shock mounted.
Oh, okay.
And I have done interviews, get in a car, which is a reasonable sound chamber, get in a car and you don't hear the handling of the thing at all. I mean, and so just with the shock mounting on the microphones, it actually eliminates that. I mean, that's the only one that I know that is that way. The ones that come with the Zoom H6 aren't shock mounted. The other modules you can buy they don't have shock mounting on any of the other microphones. There's a shotgun microphone, a mid-side microphone. None of those are shock mounted. It's just the ones that come with the Zoom H5. Let me see if I can, I've got cords attached to it. Let me see if I can move it over here to where you can see them.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Yeah,
Anyway,
they actually have shock mounting on them. See the round things there? And, it's I mean, I love this player. I just love it. And it's done well by me. And then as soon as I get that other module for it, which I'll probably just go ahead and wait until right after Christmas, and so that it won't get smashed in the mail with all the traffic coming through, I'll be able to actually plug 4 separate independent channels into it. Huh?
I said, seeing as you're the mailman, wouldn't you take personal control of the delivery of your parcel?
Well, it's kind of interestingly enough, we have a processing plant that I work at that has somewhere between 300 and 400 employees. Things coming through. Yes, we try our best to take as good a care of them as we can, but the odds of me seeing my own parcel, out of thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of pieces of mail in that plant that particular day, the closest chance I would have would be that I do, at the end of the day, for the last 3 or 4 hours, I do work in the area that the final mail comes through to go straight to my post office from that department to be shipped to it. So at the last 3 or 4 hours of the day, I could go and check and see if I see it, but there is a good chance it would slip past me and I wouldn't see it until it actually got here. So,
What did you say? Probably if you did, it'd be quicker to let it go through rather than if you tried to see it, and pick it up, it'd take you longer to get it probably. So
oh yeah, well yeah, it probably would. You want to make sure it goes out with the mail when it's supposed to, because we are not. It's regulations. We're not allowed to. I mean, even with a supervisor signing and saying it's okay and you can take it at yours, that is a security issue. We're not allowed to do that at all.
But it's just still, that's another thing that always amazes me with the mail. It's a bit like the airports when, you have millions and millions of people traveling and billions of bits of pieces going around. Yeah, things get lost every now and then, but I just don't understand how the majority of it gets through, because how it's such a complicated thing, like with luggage and mail. It's just amazing that I don't think I've ever lost anything in the mail. I've been fortunate, well, not that I know of, because usually but most of the things it's usually bills or something. But you think, gee, it's pretty reliable for how awkward it can be and how easy it could just go missing. But It's just quite incredible.
I used to work in a department that we did audits on the mail, and so we actually came up with figures on the actual accuracy of the delivery of the mail.
Mhm.
And I did that for about 10 years of my 30-year career so far. And we were consistently, I mean, there might be some kind of a trouble, like whenever you were consolidating post offices or something like that, but it actually made it to where we could identify a problem. Like if if the mail that we were finding late was consistently coming, say, from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania,
Mhm.
then it would actually give the in-plant support people a place to look based on our figures where, okay, it's consistently late there. Why is it late coming from there? Okay, well, it's not leaving there late. So why is it late but when it gets to us, and so then
Mhm.
they constantly have people who are constantly looking for, bottlenecks in the system and problems like that. And I worked in the department that generated a lot of the figures that they used to identify such problems. And we really consistently had very, very high ratings in the upper 90 some percentile, most of the time about how much mail was being delivered on time based on our surveys and the audits and things that we were doing. And, I mean, that's not too bad for millions and billions of pieces of mail coming through every week,
And a lot of the things that people do lose in that, you've got to see the quality of the way they've addressed it in the first place. Like some of them are atrocious, and they get a bit upset to put a person's name in a state, and they expect
Right.
to get through.
There was a habit that a lot of older folks would put, because they were used to the mail going to the post office and then being delivered to their neighbor, 6 blocks away. And they would just write, Jeff Blanchard, city.
Yeah.
and we see,
yeah.
And so of course at the local post office, they knew where it was at. But now, while I think some of them do hold on to their local mail, but for the most part, it comes to the central plant that I work at. And then it's all, kind of conjugated around and everything, put on the places it goes and sent to where it goes. And it's just more efficient with the large volumes that we do now to do that. But you don't want to sit around and blame things on the customers all the time. But in the department the other day, they got into a conversation. We're sorting Christmas parcels everywhere and, sorting stuff. And people say, what is your superpower? And I said, oh, yeah, well, if I had a superpower, I'd have this. They came to me and I said, my superpower is zip codes. And they said, yes, it is. You have a superpower. And the reason why is I've been there 30 years. And so you would not believe how bad people are about putting the correct zip code. And so a machine will read that bad zip code and missort it based on the zip code. And then that will continue until somebody looks at it. Somebody like me looks at it, knows where the zip code is, and sorts it correctly. And
but the thing is now, though, a lot of places where you order things like that stop because of the internet. And like we had that problem at my work, whereas you ask for the zip code and it's close enough. That'll do, but it can mean the delivery will go on the wrong truck that's the other side of town instead of this side of town.
Right. So you automatically, if it's not 100% correct, you almost automatically have 1 full day delay. And now if it goes to a different processing plant because you did 970 instead of 973, and it goes to a different plant, then you're at least 2 days out.
Whereas now, like, at least with a lot of things that you buy online, and it's even like with ours, we don't give the opportunity. You say where you are and the zip code, well, it's attached to where you are. You can't pick the wrong one, whereas that's made a lot of difference. But with letters, it's very hard because people always just handwrite them. It's very rare that you just get a print. Maybe somebody should just do that, just create a quick label printer that just says, yep, Jeff, here's his label. Put it on there. There is get for the American Post where you can get your own little set of USB scales and you can do your own postage, weigh things and do that. So you never have to go into the post office. You can print your own your stamps and labels and that can't do in that. So I thought that's quite incredible.
Yeah, it's very, very nice, but there are some people with small businesses who actually exploit that and actually cheat
Mm.
and
Oh,
pay
no,
less, because up to a certain number of ounces, it's first class. After that, it is priority mail. And there's a jump of, a couple of dollars or so, $3 sometimes, depending on, at the top of the first class range into priority once it gets up over however many ounces. So what happens is they will weigh something lighter to keep it in the first class range, and then mail a 2-pound package and pay first class postage on it. And, and that is, there are people who do that badly. I remember one time in particular, I was doing one of the surveys, one of the audits, and one small town in West Virginia, during one day's delivery, that town received 10 videos. That was back in the VHS days. That were all underpaid from one small company in California. And so can you imagine how many thousands of dollars they saved that day by underpaying all the thousands of videos? Because if we got 10 for one little tiny town in West Virginia, how many did they mail all over the United States that next day? And every one of them I saw were underpaid. And so it's fraud. People will cheat if ever they can. I mean, people just love to cheat.
Because I know years ago, if you sent something and underpaid it, it would never get delivered.
Right.
And get returned to sender. But I think the post office now thinks it's going to cost us more to send it back.
Well, it doesn't cost us. Well, I guess it does. But what happens is you don't see them. I mean, a person is not handling it personally.
No, that's right.
It's going through the machines. It goes there. It's thrown straight into a bin. Like, there are things that come into our plant that go straight to one of our sorting machines. And this is even parcels, straight to one of the sorting machines. It is sorted, put into a bin, rolled out the door, straight to the post office it's supposed to go to. And the person who sees it first is the person at the delivery post office. And so all this stuff, then it comes back the next day. If it was delivered wrong, or if there is this big postage thing. And, I always feel sorry for grandma. They used to be able to do, put change in an envelope with their letter and say, please put postage on this. And it was possible for the carrier, a lot of carriers actually would carry stamps with them to put on the letter for them, and mail it for them. Now it just comes straight in, and I mean, they're not allowed to do that and handle money. The carriers can't handle money. And so some of the older ladies, be some lady that's 90 years old, sending out something and says, please put postage on this for me. And it's, of course, separated from whatever loose change she put in an envelope somewhere. And so you just can't do that anymore. You have to have a stamp whenever you do it. But it's because of the volume it's being handled and everything. You do need to do it correctly, or you're going to run into trouble. I mean, we see loose items in envelopes on our letter sorting machines all the time. I mean, sometimes they used to mail cassette tapes loose in envelopes, and you couldn't see, and it would go into a machine and go, go tape everywhere. And I'm thinking, but there's no real public education about that.
Well, it's strange you say different things, but I came across something the other day that I wasn't too sure on how to deal with it, because everything's so electronic. You do everything through your PCs. But I had the case, but I had some cash I needed to put into the bank. And I felt such a bit of an idiot, to be quite honest. Because I went to the bank and I went to the teller. I said, I'm sorry. I said, but apart from spending it, I don't know what to do with cash anymore. You still because last time you fill out a form, you used to do that. But how do you deposit cash? Because usually you don't do that. You just get it and spend it. You don't. You either your money goes in, your wages go in electronically, you pay things electronically, you do all these sort of things. So I was just a bit taken aback. Well, and I said to him, "What do I do with that?" Oh, they said, "Just give it to me. Where's your card? Your credit card? Yeah, what account? Yeah, just put it into there."
Whereas, well, then you can do it with plastic like you used to.
Like any doing, I had a check, and you think, well, you used to have to fill in a deposit slip, and then either take it in and then it was stamp. But now even with these flexi tellers, now what they do, and even it used to be, say, 2 or 3 years ago, you'd go to the hole in the wall, the flexi teller, and you say, I want to deposit my check, how much it's for. And it used to spit out an envelope, and spit out a receipt. You stuck that in, and it sucked it in.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had a course, and I hadn't done one of them for years, so I had another course. I thought, oh, how do I do it? I'll go to the machine in the wall,
Mm-hmm.
cut the check, and then so I want to deposit a check. It just said, "Give me the check." With a slot. What?
Yeah, because you didn't tell it how much it was or anything.
No, it said, just give me the check. It said, so it said, so it sucks the check in.
And that makes you nervous.
Yeah, and then, but then it tells you how much the check is for. It
scans
you
it.
Don't count up. It scans it in, but it says, okay, it's X amount of dollars, and then it puts it into your account. But it gives you a receipt with just a small receipt, but with a scanned copy of the check.
That's pretty
cool.
cool.
I just thought character recognition is so good these days to pick up all the different things, but it picked up the right amount, and I panicked. Oh, it hasn't done the right amount. It's done it wrong, back to front. But it was something I was putting into my check account that you don't keep too much money in, and I think this was a check for $300 odd, but my account was, and then it said, your account is set a certain balance or something after that, and I thought it was close, similar. I thought, oh, that's wrong. Oh no, that's the account balance or what it was before. But it's such a good job. But as I said, it's like technology. You get so used to it, and I always wonder, well, what happens when if it's turned off? Because we'd be gone if when we lose power and that. Like we said, the old days, and you used to be in a retail store, you lost the power. Yeah, you could still sell things. You just put things in there. The cash register didn't usually depend on power a lot of the time, the old ones. But now, the computer goes out, they shut the doors. You can't do anything.
Yeah, and people don't do checks anymore. Very much often, people just don't have checkbooks with them. I know that I have a guy in the garage. There's a car working on garage place. They do light work. Auto oil changes, tires, exhaust systems, things like that, normal stuff like that. Anyway, he appreciates the fact that I used to work in the banking industry before I got on there, and I was in there buying some tires, and that can get a little expensive. And so I looked at him and I said, do you take checks? Because I know they charge you dearly for these credit card fees. They actually take some of this away from you. And he goes, you have a check? Thank you. He's like, thank you, because he gets all the money now instead of them taking a percentage of it away from him every time you do something on your card. I mean, he really appreciated that I knew and was willing to write him a check. I've been dealing with him for 30 years. So, it's just kind of like this big old long, thing. And of course he totally trusted me. He knew where I lived. So, it wasn't a problem. But yeah, the technology, the way it reads, the things, the barcode. I'll say this real quick before we go, at the post office, the, OCR, optical character recognition stuff, was just trying to be a proven thing when I first started working there all this time ago. And so, excuse me. And so the progress I've seen, it used to be that they actually had people looking at images of these things and keying them whenever they were handwritten letters. The improvements in the system and the handwritten letters that are being read now by this optical character recognition technology going through at 9 a second. I mean, this is shocking how accurate this recognition is and how well it does.
Well, we're nearly at the end of our first show on RelateCasts, and Rick said, "What if you get time? What you should do? We should get you on if you ever are available on. But it's just maybe a bit awkward to be a guest on Tech Down Over, so we can introduce you as another co-host." So,
well, thank you. Yeah, we'll have to do that
Down Over one day. So, but as I said, we've just got to organise the time because we do it at 4 p.m. Friday time, Los Angeles, which would be 6 p.m. your time.
Let's see. No, I am later than they are, so it'd probably be
later. Yeah. So
yeah, it'd be
PM,
like 7.
3 hours.
Yeah, we'll have to work that out. As a matter of fact, the time to do that would be the week after Christmas, because that's my normal work day, but I have that Friday off, the Friday after Christmas Day. I have it off, so we could possibly do it then, because I'll be off that day. That'd probably be the best time.
Yeah, well, might give that a try and see how we do. Anyway, thank you for another wonderful chat and that. So, as always, I enjoy really catching up with this. We're not taking a Christmas break, are we? You're here next week.
Yes, I'll be around. No, and again, I really want to say how much I appreciate RelateCast letting us associate with them and be on them and be on the network and everything like that. So that's really cool. I really appreciate that.
I hope we're enhancing the RelateCast broadcast. That's why I wanted to do this, because Rick's a really good friend. I really want to, hopefully it helps him out. If it doesn't, we'll certainly go willingly. Something like that. I'm sure we'll be a good addition to them. Anyway, if anybody's watching, please subscribe to us. We'll be on here, and I think we'll put it also on Vimeo, the show as well. So
Cool.
Hopefully get some more audience on that. Anyway, everybody have a nice Christmas. Well, I'm not allowed to say that, am I? Happy holidays, we'll say.
Well, right here locally, it's always Merry Christmas. People take exception to that, but that's fine. Yeah.
That's right. We'll just don't watch this show anyway.
Sure.
I'll see you, and bye for now.
Thank you so much for listening. Links for a free subscription, feedback, and everything else we do is at holbrooknewmedia.com. You can find all things Geoff Blanchard at jeffblanchard.com.